Republican businesswoman Randy Reid, who was a candidate to represent Nevada in Congress this year. Randy Reid, would you like to hear your president, Donald Trump, accepting the results that election watchers and poll has found?
Absolutely not. I completely agree with Trump that we need to get to the bottom of what's going on before he can accept, let alone concede the seat. I mean, to have an absolute stop in vote counting is completely unacceptable. But at the same time, the Democrats laid out the exact plan and we're just living it right now.
Sorry, I don't understand. You've heard Donald Trump in a tweet claim victory in Pennsylvania, which hasn't finished counting, victory in North Carolina, which hasn't finished counting, and victory in Michigan, which has been given to Joe Biden and the Democrats. Why is he doing that?
Because we look at what happened last night before the Democrats decided to put a stop in actual vote counting. Trump had a tremendous surge. They did the math and they realized that if Trump were to win those states, that he was going to surpass 270, and the Democrats
what vote
not
counting?
Have that. There's no
what do you mean they stopped vote? They're still counting the votes. That's the whole point. They're still counting
they put
a lot of votes.
Last night. But they stopped last night. There should have never been a process where one vote was stopped. They knew exactly what was going to happen. They knew the surge that was coming in with the mail-in votes. And they literally halted last night when they started to see Donald Trump surge in the numbers. They all stopped
I don't think
counting.
I even understand what you're saying. They've been counting the
physical
votes.
Counting. They stopped the physical counting in a few states, and it was completely unacceptable. They resumed again this morning. It should have never stopped. That's my point.
So you think that delegitimizes the entire election, do you?
Well, the whole mail-in voting delegitimizes the entire voting process. We've never
So mail-in voting during a pandemic shouldn't have been allowed. Is that right?
I didn't say it shouldn't have been allowed. It shouldn't have been encouraged to the extent that it was. You have protests out there. You have these extreme riots. To think that you can't go into a voting booth 6 feet apart and do it safely, that we all have to emergency do a mail-in voting. It's been the Democrats' plan the entire time. Again, they laid it out for us. So the Republicans only have
ourselves to blame. It's been the Democrats' plan to encourage people to vote as safely as they can. And you would have thought it was the whole of America's interest to do that.
It has zero to do with safety. Imagine the past 2 days, we haven't heard anything about COVID, have we? We haven't heard a thing about COVID. It's kind of ironic.
Well, we've been counting the election results. Okay, let me just put it to you.
Excuse me. COVID is a national pandemic, a worldwide pandemic.
Right.
We're having a surge in numbers. So we see polling booths are being shut down because of the surge in COVID numbers. But for the past 2 days, we literally have not heard one word about COVID. If that doesn't seem fishy, then people don't have their eyes open.
OK. You will know better than me, I'm sure, that Donald Trump has spent the last 4 years undermining America's democratic systems, claiming he's won the popular vote against Hillary Clinton, calling for an entire investigation into voting which found no irregularity whatsoever. I wonder why you'd expect anyone to take this seriously rather than just to assume he's doing what he always does, which is stoking fear, undermining democracy, encouraging people to maybe cause trouble at voting booths, as we're starting to see in places like Detroit. Why would you stand by somebody who was doing that?
Well, because I think it's what the media wants you to believe. We've seen peaceful protests literally across the country for Donald Trump. When you have these major cities boarding up the retail units and restaurants, it's not because they're assuming that Trump supporters are automatically going to start rioting and start causing distress to these cities. We've seen it for over 100 days plus. It's all happening in democratically run cities. So when we're talking about stoking fear, you're talking about our national media that won't even play stories that show that Hunter Biden and Joe Biden are corrupt, that they have literally sold out the American people. It's not even a theory at this point. We've debunked the entire Russian collusion. We've debunked so many different stories. It's hard to sit there and blame one bad orange man.
One president.
It just doesn't make sense.
Randy Reid, thank you. Thank you very much for joining us this
Appreciate your
evening.
time.
Well, amidst all the unknowns, a few bits of clear data.